You've seen it happen. The promotion goes to the loudest person in the room. The job offer lands in the hands of someone who barely scraped by. The leadership role is taken by someone who clearly has no idea what they're doing.
But they walk in like they own the place, and people believe them. Meanwhile, the quiet thinkers, the cautious planners, the ones who actually understand the depth of things, they get ignored. Or worse, they become background noise in a world that only listens to volume, not value. It's frustrating, isn't it? Especially if you've spent your life being thoughtful, learning, doing the right thing. But it happens everywhere. In school, at work, in politics. By the way, if you're into deep psychology and honest takes like this, hit subscribe. I share videos that dig into the stuff we all think about but rarely say out loud. Back to the video. And it raises a painful question. Why do so many incompetent people end up in charge? Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli had an answer, and it was uncomfortable even back then. In his book, The Prince, Machiavelli didn't write a guide for how to be a good person. He wrote a guide for how to gain and keep power. His advice wasn't idealistic. It was realistic, blunt, cold even. Because he saw the world for what it was, not what we wish it would be. And one of the things Machiavelli understood deeply was this: power isn't about wisdom. It's not about intelligence. It's not even about competence. Power is about perception. And perception is a game that fools are often willing to play, while wise people hesitate. Think about it. The foolish don't question their own abilities. They don't waste time second-guessing themselves. They speak with certainty, even when they have no idea what they're talking about. And people eat that up. Because most of us don't really want to do the hard work of analyzing everything ourselves. We're drawn to people who sound sure, even if they're wrong. Meanwhile, the intelligent, the ones who actually understand the complexity of a situation, are more likely to doubt themselves. They see the gray areas. They're aware of what they don't know. And that awareness makes them pause, makes them cautious. But in the race for power, caution looks like weakness. This is what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's the idea that people with low ability at something often overestimate how good they are. And people with high ability? They underestimate themselves, because the more you know, the more aware you are of what you don't know. So the fools charge ahead with certainty. The wise hang back with humility. And in a world that rewards confidence over competence, guess who ends up in charge? Machiavelli understood this dynamic long before modern psychology put a name to it. He wrote that a leader doesn't need to be truly virtuous. They just need to appear virtuous. In fact, being too honest, too kind, too moral, that can be dangerous. Because people will take advantage of you. They'll exploit your goodness. And worst of all, they'll underestimate you. So the game becomes this strange theater. Those who know how to perform, who can put on the mask of strength, the mask of decisiveness, are rewarded. Those who refuse to play, who insist on being authentic, who don't want to manipulate, get sidelined. You've probably seen it in real life. Maybe you work with someone who talks a big game but never delivers. Yet somehow they keep getting promoted. They know how to make themselves look indispensable, even if they're not. Or maybe you've had a teacher, a coach, a boss who clearly wasn't the smartest, but they had charisma. They spoke like they knew everything. They made decisions fast, and people followed them. Not because they were right, but because they sounded right. And here's the harsh truth. The system often prefers it that way. Why? Because fools are easier to control. They don't question orders. They follow the script. They're eager to please those above them and dominate those below. They play the hierarchy well. But intelligent people? They question things. They see flaws in the system. They suggest improvements. They ask why. And systems don't always like that. especially rigid, bureaucratic ones. They're not built for reform. They're built for compliance. So, ironically, the very traits that make someone a good leader, like curiosity, humility, and empathy, can make them seem less leader-like in a superficial world. And the traits that make someone a poor leader, arrogance, overconfidence, lack of self-awareness, can look like strength from the outside. It's messed up, but it's not hopeless. Because Machiavelli wasn't saying be evil. He wasn't saying you have to lie and cheat and manipulate. What he was saying, what he was trying to make clear, is that if you want to succeed in a world driven by perception, you need to understand how the game works. You don't have to sell your soul, but you do need to be strategic. Sometimes that means learning how to present your ideas with more confidence. Not because you're arrogant, but because you understand how people listen. Sometimes it means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to show strength and when to hide it. It means developing a kind of emotional intelligence, not just in how you treat others, but in how you manage your own visibility. Because here's something most quiet, thoughtful people need to hear. Your silence doesn't always protect you. Your hard work doesn't always speak for itself. In a perfect world, maybe it would. But in this one, you have to learn how to be seen. You don't have to become a fool, but you do need to understand why they rise and how to position yourself differently. So maybe the real lesson here isn't that foolish people always win. It's that they understand something we don't. They understand how to signal power. And if you can combine real substance with smart signaling, that's a kind of power that actually lasts. Because yes, fools may rise fast, but they also fall hard. Their foundations are shaky, their plans are shallow, and eventually, people catch on. So, while they're playing the short game of appearances, you can play the long game of strategy. But you have to start showing up differently. Not changing who you are, but learning how to communicate your value more clearly. Learning how to step into the spotlight without compromising your depth. That's not manipulation, that's leadership. Machiavelli once said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." What he meant is this: to survive in a complex world, you need both sharpness and strength, wisdom and boldness, kindness and cunning. The foolish may get ahead because they act like lions, but you have the chance to be both, to understand the traps and move powerfully through them. So the next time you find yourself overlooked, underestimated, ignored, remember this: it's not because you aren't good enough. It's because the world often mistakes noise for value. And the ones who win aren't always the best. They're just the most visible. You don't have to play their game, but you do have to understand it. You do have to decide, how do I show up in a world that rewards appearances? Because if you can learn to carry your wisdom with presence, to speak with clarity and confidence, to act with both heart and mind, you won't just survive the system, you'll reshape it. Not by becoming like the fools, but by being smarter than them, louder than your doubts, and sharper than the game they've been playing all along.